Hello. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Minnesota Music Coalition's Music Summit of 2021. Wow, we made it. We're here.
We're live.
Yes,
We did it.
We're all live, we're real. All of this just to get to this very point. Thanks so much for taking the time to come hop on this morning. Of course, there's been a lot that's been going on over the past year, and it's been a long time since I've seen most of you and meeting Nordi just for the first time. So this is awesome. Let's go around the room really quick here. I am Simone, stage name Sim1, and I go by any pronoun. Let's go around the room and talk about a brief overview of our musical journeys, more involvement within music industries and communities, including how you've pivoted your career this year to account for the changes the pandemic has created. So I'll just popcorn to Nordi.
Sweet. All right. Well, hi. My name is Nordi. I've been doing hip hop now in the Twin Cities for 3 years now. It was 3 years in February. I started just at open mics like so many of other artists out there. Shout out to Shut Up and Rap. And I did that for a very long time. I've been able to perform all over the country, which is super awesome. Fans all over the world now, which has been a major blessing. And since in the music community, I've just been an artist, a person. I've booked a few shows myself, put some people on the stage with me. I have been able to start my own music collective with a group of artists called Fair Play Entertainment, which is super amazing, with so many talented artists as well, kind of uplifting our scene a little bit more. Outside of that, during the pandemic, with a massive shift in what we were able to do or where we were able to do it, I focused my efforts on raising money for artists that were put off by losing all of their shows. So I started Minnesota Artist Relief, which was able to put cash in the hands of people who needed it without having to jump through any kind of bureaucratic hoops that sometimes happens with those kind of relief fund stuff. It's just, here you go, take the money. And yeah, just been playing a lot of live stream stuff.
Sick.
Kelsey, you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Kelsey. I have been doing talent and brand management for probably the last 8 or so years in the Minneapolis music scene, as well as just with influencers and kind of across the board. I've had really great opportunities to work with Sue McLean and Associates. And right before the pandemic, I was working with Green Room Music Source as an artist manager. Yeah, I loved it. Greg's amazing. Everyone there was awesome. Obviously, with the pandemic, things have shifted. I've been really lucky to be working with Simone on projects for Placebo Records as a label manager, as well as helping launch our VR venue. And then currently, as the pandemic shifted, I went from doing artist management to more small businesses, focusing a little bit more with influencers, all sorts of folks that are just really excited to get their brands available and helping them build strategies. And we're doing most of that through Sticker Book Collective with Priscilla Preedy.
Nice.
JP, I'll have you go next. I'm just going down the line.
Well, nice to meet you, Nerdy and Kelsey. This is kind of our first time pretty much meeting each other. Pleasure. And Simone, thanks for having me and us here. So cool. I don't know, I guess just to keep things brief, I got into collecting records when I was a little kid, 13 or 14, and realized you can play two of them at the same time around when I was 18 or 19. And then I started going to raves and became a techno artist. And I produced techno for I still do. But for about my first 20 years in electronic music, I was just mostly a DJ and underground event curator. And that's where my community building thing happens, I think, where I really cut my teeth on developing community, is throwing underground parties for a long time. And then Sometime along the way, I got approached by an old partner, old friend from the U of M, a grad student from the U of M named Dr. J. Allen. And he said, you know, I have a PhD and you're like this underground rave person. We should start a school together. That would be sick. And so then I have Slam Academy. And the same year, about 10 years ago, we also started an art gallery, a couple of friends of mine and I. And Simone has played and graced us with her presence at Gamut Gallery. So between Slam Academy and Gamut Gallery, my life lives and breathes on community all day long, with those two places being my babies. So yeah, I still make a lot of music. That's what I really do. That's what my art is. I'm a producer and I play instruments and stuff. But I really, really, really love helping other people find their vision and find their goals. And I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of great people, including Simone. So yeah, hi from Slam Academy and Gamut Gallery, and really honored to be here and participate however I can. And also, hi Beak, nice to see you again, buddy.
Hey everybody, hey JP.
Hey.
Yeah, just want to echo that. A pleasure to be here with you all. And I am Laserbeak. My real name is Aaron, but in 2000 you needed a rap handle, so it was Laserbeak. And people call me Beak. I'm an artist, producer, but you know, I was never able to find a way to just make music to pay the bills. So I just slowly have been my whole life trying to keep one foot in making music while kind of learning the ropes of the behind the scenes and the business stuff. So I'm the CEO GM of Doomtree Records, run our local label collective, and then got into artist management as well, as I had a bunch of kids and couldn't go on tour anymore. And so it was like, all right, maybe I can help others go on tour. So got into artist management. Then the pandemic hit. I think I canceled 125 shows across all the groups I was either in or represented. And, you know, at the level that I was at and the artists I was working with, that had kind of become the main source of income was live music. So hard stop, you know, just trying to figure out how to keep the lights on everywhere. Still a work in progress, I think. I doubled down on making music because just for mental health, it's the thing that makes me happy. And so just kind of like refocus my energy into not just like, oh, I need to do this to make money, but more like I need to do this to be a good person to other people and not be crabby and mean. And then I've been trying to develop like almost an a la carte management services system that could be more beneficial for younger folks, artists that are just starting out that might not have the spotlight on them yet, or the deep pockets to pay for kind of industry services. So just, I guess it's like essentially a consulting thing, but, you know, with a focus on younger, newer artists that don't necessarily have the eyes of big managers on them as like kind of a launching pad to set them off into the world. So again, work in progress, but day at a time. And just trying to have a lot of conversations like this, as you know, the world is changing, the city is definitely changing, and how do we, you know, I'm feeling a lot older. I'm like nearing my 40s, and just trying to find a way to bridge the gap and kind of gracefully step back as younger people come in and try to give them a platform for this stuff. So, anyways, a pleasure to be with you all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves. I definitely resonate a lot of what was said through the pivoting. I am a producer. I know I'm moderating, but introduce myself too. I'm.
Let's be honest. You're pretty interesting. Let's hear all about you.
Oh gosh, now that's something to. No, I am a producer as well. I work with Kelsey. We run a record label collective thing as well together that started from an event series that just like kind of started from wanting to make the things that we wanted to see in the Twin Cities. So it's very like pop and electronic focused, alternative. And I guess when the pandemic hit, I had, like a lot of plans, like to go to Germany for the first time, other than being like 2 years old. So I actually remember it, and just kind of everything fell through and kind of left me in a free fall limbo kind of space, which I feel like a lot of artists felt. And the only thing that's really kept me going is the thought of bringing music communities and arts communities in general as a whole together, that in a way that is so strong that the pandemic doesn't even matter. I feel like before the pandemic, there were so many events and there was so much pressure to attend every event in person as you possibly could, because that's what it means to be connected to your community. But we've found now that it definitely doesn't. It can be engagement on so many different levels, and I think we've all been experimenting on what that looks like. And I've been having a lot of conversations like these, and I'm so happy to see all of your faces, truly, even just on this computer, because it just inspires me and makes me motivated for what's to come and what we can create. So, yeah. Next question here, moving right along, is kind of a good segue. 2020 and 2021 has been a year of major racial justice uprising for our communities in Minnesota and across the United States, related to the murders of George Floyd, Daunte Wright, and other people of color across the country. How have you seen the music industry change or respond throughout this movement? And how does it need to keep changing? Big question here. So feel free to take a moment here and just kind of gather your thoughts on this. There's been a lot of change, and I guess just on my own personal thoughts, I've seen arts communities really come together and take up less space for the space that needs to be given to people of color who are artists, and just people of color in general. So that space has been given. What are things that you've seen that have changed within your communities, or how should they keep changing? Anybody who wants to hop in first.
That's a tough one to just jump into.
I know, just go right into level 17. Beak, you want to throw some thoughts out? I've got some ideas too, but I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I'll just start it off so we can kind of pass it around. But I've a lot of positive notes in my mind is just seeing artists step up to the plate, and the promotion of their individual projects or their music or things. It's not that needed to stop altogether, but it was encouraging to see people of all walks of life throughout the state really stand up and say, like, hey, this is more important, and we need to really start having this conversation. Whereas in the past, I think not just here, but in a lot of places, music, you could kind of play your part, like, I'm just a musician, I don't really go there, or I'm just an athlete, I don't really go there. It was cool to watch people become more empowered to speak their mind and stand up for what was right. It's not like we ever fix things like this or ultimately change them, but I've been really encouraged by just like the voices that have been lifted up and seeing people just feel enabled to speak their mind. And then from an artist side, I'm just proud of so many people for organizing, coming together, raising money, like having events. It's really been heartwarming. So I expect to continue to see that on a bigger and bigger level. And certainly there's, the work doesn't stop. So.
Yeah, I was going to just jump in because I love sharing my thoughts, but I also realized that on this topic, I'd like to make sure everyone else has the first chance to speak on it. In particular, Nerdy and Simone being, I'm a white guy. And one thing that has changed in my general headspace in the past year or two is realizing that I need to shut up and get out of the way more often. So, just because I've got thoughts and I've seen a lot of change already, I still think there's obviously most of it still is yet to happen. But Nerdy or Simone, I guess I just want to make sure everyone of all descent has an equal opportunity even to share their opinions in such a panel. So before the white guy talks on this topic, How about I don't know, Nerdy or Simone? How has this changed for you, especially maybe Nerdy? You know, you said you're in hip hop. I mean, like most music forms, a black art form in particular, I'd love to hear how it's changed for you or what you see as changed.
Yeah. Like, what's just interesting, I think, is that the hip hop community has been kind of talking about this stuff for a while. So it's sort of like people are now starting to hear what a lot of these artists have been saying for some time now. So there's like this level of like, oh, hey, these people are being heard, and there's nights being created and things of that nature happening, which is great as far as like the music industry focusing on that stuff and larger news media being around more so they can catch stuff like that. As far as like what has changed in our music industry, what I think, and not to be like a crazy downer or anything, but like I think that because coronavirus is happening in tandem, we're not seeing a whole lot of actually anything because nothing is happening. We'll see what happens once everything's open again and people can like have shows like they normally would and book acts like they normally would, and we'll see sort of whether this 20 to 2021 collective for lack of a better term wokeness transfers over, because the big venues, the people that book stuff, like the radio stations and stuff that are talking about like, oh, our community and our local black and brown indigenous peoples and artists, right now it's kind of like they can say it but they can't do anything, so there's not a whole lot of risk on their part. Once it starts to be like, all right, we want to fill a room, who do we ask? Then we'll see what changes were superficial and what changes were like substantial. So that's where I've seen recently is just artists continuing to talk about what they've been talking about, more people listening, and then we'll see if that message is heard.
Amen.
Yeah, I definitely piggybacking off of that. I definitely share those same thoughts of like, will that change continue? Like, we're all talking the talk right now. Is that actually going to happen when you're actually going to follow through once we do come back into regular life? I also think that the coronavirus happening and lockdown happening before and at the same time as the murder of George Floyd gave it this almost like just empty space in which nothing was happening for many months, and then all of a sudden that happens, making that the most important focus and topic for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone, like a global scale. And it was just honestly it's the hugest shock to me that everyone paid attention, which also was as incredible as that was as just as crushing, because it took a pandemic to get everyone to focus. Yeah. And then at the same time, once all of this work is being done, also incredible with the juxtaposition of it took the murder of another Black person to get all this work to be done. So as much as I am happy that there is work and focus and space being given to people of color and Black people, I am also saddened just how much it continues to take. Like, all of this has all happened before, over and over and over again. And so it just makes me wonder, how many more times does it have to, how many more bad things have to happen before we like get to a space where we desire to be, where it just is like, yeah, we should all equally be treated, like that just makes sense. I don't know, I'm rambling a little bit, but I feel like very bittersweet about how much work has been done and how much space is now being given to people of color. But I also think like, oh, is this just being used as a whatever hot topic, like BuzzFeed thing right now because everyone's doing it and everyone's paying attention. But I hope and truly desire to see that the walk continues to be walked.
Nice. Yeah, I want to quick co-sign what both of you said. Nerdy, for sure. It's going to be really interesting to see how we reapproach all being together again with this new light. I mean, let's not forget about the Me Too movement. I mean, being musicians, for me, being like a 25-year music scene veteran, being a white guy, between Me Too and George Floyd, I mean, the entire musical universe has changed in the Twin Cities and hopefully everywhere. I mean, so many musician males got away with murder, basically, and so many cops have gotten away with murder. And we've had all this time, a year and a half, to sit and think about it. Like, how messed up is it that that person, just because they were good at singing or playing guitar, did all those things to the other gender or whatever it is, just like the police doing all those things, these terrible things to people of color. And big cosign on that, Simone, that I think if we were all like hurrying up, getting to work, and like it was just in our news feed and we were busy, maybe it wouldn't have sunk in so deep. But man, I know that even, I mean, I've taken a deep look at my own actions. I mean, I've always considered myself like a soldier of equality, like a equality warrior. But I've looked back at my own life and been like, wow, there are some things that I could have done differently. Like, I mean, I threw parties for 20 years. I booked the same 4 or 5 people every single time because I knew that those were the people, myself included, that the people like wanted to see. So me and my boys kept throwing down and it was cool. But think about all those years that the other people, not us, didn't get a chance. And I want to speak on behalf of my 2 main like music communities, Intellifunk, which is my house and techno family, and Infrasound, which is my bass music fam. Especially Intellifunk. I mean, coming from house and techno is a black art form, just like hip hop is. And so is dubstep, reggae. I mean, that is all those sounds and techniques in the studio were not invented by rich white people. They were invented by people that had very little and needed to express themselves by doing it their own way. That's how dubstep was invented. That's how hip hop was invented. Sampling, stealing loops, rapping over it, all the way to, I mean, and so on behalf of like Intellifunk, for instance, we realize not only is it a black art form, techno, but also it's a art form that was invented by gay people. House music was a thing because of gay clubs in New York and Chicago. And so even before Me Too happened, my crew at Intellifunk, my friends, my people, we've done our best to try to diversify those lineups and try to have as many people across the spectrum in every way possible, color, preferences, etc., represented in the booth and on stage. And I know for sure that as we reemerge back into having events on behalf of Infrasound and Intellifunk, those crews, there's going to be as much diversity as possible. And I'd like to just holler to every non-white man out there that has artistic aspirations, fucking now's the time. Go for it. Because we collectively, those scenes I'm talking about, are dying to open the door for more diversity in the crew, working at the parties or playing the gigs or whatever. And even at Slam Academy, for instance, like we made a scholarship about 4 or 5 years ago that's like not the 1%. And it's just basically for, do you need help to go to Slam? Just write a paragraph about why you want to go to Slam and we'll open the door for you. And I'm just hoping that more and more people take advantage of those opportunities because I'm visualizing, I'm manifesting to be all woke. I'm manifesting a future where there is really, truly equal opportunity in the music scene and art scene for everyone. And if not equal, actually maybe more for females and black people. Let's just be real. It's time. So that's just my 2 cents on the topic.
I think as we are saying all of these things, it's awesome, and this is a great conversation to have. That said, I think the next step post COVID and really starting to open up shows is holding everybody accountable to the things they're going to be saying. Because like Nerdy had mentioned, like, yeah, we got to see right now they're talking the talk, but are they walking the walk? Mindful booking of who you're putting on that stage and what your lineups look like. It can't just be the one Black person and 4 white people. Like, that can't be what we need. We need to see constant change, and we need to see women of color on stages. All of those things matter. And as you notice both independent and major venues talking about these things, it will be on us to say that lineup's not diverse. That lineup doesn't represent me. As a music fan and as a part of the community, I should be able to look at a lineup and say, yes, I belong there. And that's going to be the big step post this, to really sit down and say, yes, these people deserve to be up there. That's my thought on it.
Cool.
And
Hell yeah.
I think you're exactly right. And it's going to be tricky because we've almost gotten into this place now where it's like everyone's just trying to check the boxes, right? Like, oh, there's one woman on the bill and there's one Black person on the bill, and okay, so now we're good, without thinking about like the art in itself, or actually like going out and meeting people in different communities, instead of just being like, God, I really got to find a Black woman to get on here or else I'm going to get, taken down or some shit like that. So it's like, yeah, it's dealing with, and Twin Cities is a very white place. Minnesota is a very white place. It's dealing with this like new onslaught of white guilt, especially from people that maybe weren't in the music community, that were, especially like Nerdy said, maybe in the hip hop scene or scenes where these conversations have been happening for a long time, just not on such a public platform. It's going to be like working through that kind of polarizing white guilt and making sure that that people aren't like scared now to have these conversations because they're so on pins and needles about like if they say the wrong thing. Like I really want to try to have the tough conversations, knowing that everyone is going to say some things that might not be like the most woke or the most appropriate, so we can actually like make some real human interaction instead of, it is still very segregated here, even in the music, I think. So I've been trying to make a more conscious effort of just like talking to people, I guess, and one-on-one too, and not just like, not just a statement on Instagram or a solidarity post or whatever. I mean, all that stuff helps, but it's not like the ultimate mountaintop. So I think you're right, Kelsey. It's time to see it happen.
That is a tricky thing, though. I tell you, I've found myself like with the art gallery, for instance, like looking at our programming and being like, we've always been trying to push diversity, but like not enough. And then we find ourselves in this position where, like you're saying, Beak, that, okay, we have to make sure we have enough diversity in our sequence. And then like, you don't want to be like forcing it. Because then when you do, then wait, you're booking these people for the wrong reasons now. And so it's like it's deeply rooted here. Like we all know that females and people of color are every bit as good at playing a piano or whatever as anyone else. But there's this deeply rooted idea that it's like only certain people are good at it, or only certain people have the resources. And I mean, that's, I think, what we really should be brainstorming on, is like, how do we really take down that systemic, really low level thing in our culture that, especially like you said, Beak, in Minnesota, it's so segregated here, the opportunities. I think we need to look at opportunities on a really low level. I really love what Andre Fisher and the Minnesota Mobile Jazz Unit, or Shut Up and Rap. Well, you mentioned Nerdy. Anyone else? I mean, any opportunities where they're just like, yo, open the doors, just open the floodgates, especially for young people, and just make possibilities become realities in the lives of people who aren't born with it, or born with the socioeconomic status to have the nice guitar or keyboard when they're young kids or whatever. Tackle that that point of entry, because there's a point of entry, for a young kid who's like, I wish I had turntables, I'd love to DJ, but they're expensive. We got to like tackle that. You know what I mean? That's where that Minnesota Jazz Unit or Shut Up and Rap, it's like, yo, I got a microphone, man. Start yelling shit. It's beautiful. We want to, like, I think that's really where people, Laserbeak, you said you're getting old. Me too, man. I think we got to do what we can. We have to, you know, just resonate opportunity across the board as much as possible on a like low level. You know, so maybe in 5 or 10 years, we'll be more like in a true reality where, hey, you need a really good keyboard player or a really good painter for an art gallery. You're going to have half men, half women. You're going to have, you know, a lot of diversity in that pool to choose from. And it's not just a byproduct of systemic racism and gender inequality where now I'm only looking at a bunch of white dudes as my best options, you know, which I want to really try to fix that as much as possible. Again, especially working in a Black art form. You know, how messed up is it? You know, working in techno and house and bass music where it's a Black art form and there's hardly any Black people messing with it. You know, that's got to change. So they're at the risk of sounding racist. I mean, this is now, like you said, Laserbeak, some people are going to say some things that are awkward. I mean, I've known more African Americans who are born with the God-given gift of music than I've known white people, like on two fingers or two hands or whatever, you know. And so we just got to make that opportunity a reality and crush these you know, the system that's holding people down. However, we can do that.
I definitely want to put emphasis on, yes, everything that you just said, JP. Definitely the resources and opportunities need to be there so that the people seeking to learn how to do this, to do whatever they want at a professional level, at whatever level, so that it can be done. And especially for the next generation to see people like them in those spaces, to inspire them, to show them like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to do, and not even have it be like this big breaking thing of like, wow, a Black person in this area, how crazy. Like the amount of times that I receive like, oh, what do? Do you rap? Like, nope.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah.
I think maybe it'd be cool to let's go around the room quick. I mean, I'm not the moderator here, but let's go around the room and say at least one or two things that we know. So to all the people who are watching this, even in the recording, who are maybe not white men and looking and believe they have music inside of themselves, what are some resources that we all know of that we can throw into the mix that people can look out for? I want to throw out, because all the people, any good foundation or nonprofit right now is tackling the same thing right now. We're not the only ones trying to figure out how to bring more opportunity. And so if you are a person of color or BIPOC or whatever of any sorts, and you're looking for opportunities, or you believe you want to pursue the arts, I think American Composers Forum is a place you want to be a member of. You can go to American Composers Forum and get a steady stream of fiscal sponsor opportunities. In other words, free money for you to make art with. And if you're a person of color or a female, that the doors, your opportunities are going to be skyrocketing right now. American Composers Forum is acf.org, I'm pretty sure. They're a really good opportunity for anyone who's in that position. So please check them out. And then also I would, of course, mention Slam Academy. We have a scholarships page. And if you are a female or a person of color, you can pretty much go here for free. So make some beats with me. Okay, there's my plug / opportunity list. Who else? Anyone else have a cool opportunity they want to share with people watching who could maybe get access? Yeah.
She Rock is a great opportunity in the Twin Cities for women of color, women, non-binary, the whole scope, which is great. Hopewell Cooperative North also really is great. If you are an underprivileged youth, you can get a lot of musical instruments from them. They will help finance that kind of stuff. So they're both really great opportunities.
Sweet. Good call. Forgot about Hopewell.
As far as musical opportunities, like to get more, like time on the mic, I honestly would suggest searching out your open mics around your area. I know that it's tough right now because of how the pandemic kind of like shut a lot of stuff down. But what I have found is that the best way to build the community is to go where they're going to be. So that's going to be one. Also, as well, Fair Play Entertainment. Like I said, we are trying to help as many artists as we can. So that sort of stuff is if you're in hip hop, anything like that. I shout out True Art Speaks. True Art Speaks, run by Tish Jones, is amazing. They're constantly fostering young talent in so many different ways. So if you could get in contact with them, get connected with them, whether you're an MC, spoken word, poetry, like they have all this sort of stuff for you to help you and guide you into your next level. So those would be some of the things that I would suggest reaching out towards or looking into.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, more like big picture, you know, I started making beats 20 some years ago, and it was a pretty high entry point to even just get the gear, right? Like I had to get an MPC that was like $1,200 and blah blah blah. Then you got to go to the record stores and dig in the dollar bins. The cool thing, shout out to technology, is like anyone can, as long as you have access to like a phone or a computer at the library or anything like that, like anyone can make a beat now. And there's so many like sample-free sample packs and all that kind of stuff that like I don't think we talk enough about how that like playing field has been leveled, and you can start with GarageBand and make a heater. Like you can get a little like $2 app in the Apple's music store and make something that's on the level of what you'd hear on the radio. And so I think a lot of times people are just like, oh, you know, I don't know how to start. I don't know. Do I need to know music theory to make a beat? Like, no, you need to know, like, you need to be able to hit a button with your finger, and your ear will tell you if that button is cool or not. So just always trying to be like, don't overthink it. And if you have even like the inkling of like, man, this is cool. I have a passion for this. Then, you know, I don't want to be the guy that's like, Google it, man. But like the shit is out there and it's pretty accessible now. And technology, you know, like, my kids can, if they wanted to, like make a beat in GarageBand and upload it to SoundCloud, you know, in like 30 minutes. And they're like 7. So it's pretty cool. So just like always trying to, I mean, it's not that cool, but
it's pretty cool.
You know, that and I don't know. I really think about that with production and especially with studio stuff, like the lack of, it is almost like 95% male dominated once you start going to recording studios and things like that. I know there are programs that are getting started that are really focused on getting more women involved in the kind of behind the scenes, you know, producing, engineering, mixing, mastering, because I do think that is such a huge lopsided thing too. I don't have anything super specific. Sorry. Like you guys did great at naming specific things, but
I apologize.
But yeah, I just think, you know, really reminding people that like the other thing I always tell people that are getting started is it's insane to me that you can literally basically text message anyone that has an Instagram account. Like the DMs are open, and even if you just want to say like, hey, I really like your music, or hey, I have a question for you, you know, even if 1 out of 50 people you hit up responds, like, do it. It's free, and you'd be surprised how many people actually check those things and might just have a little bit of time, especially in the pandemic, to be like, oh yeah, here's some tips or here's some feedback. So I was always so afraid of anyone that was maybe more successful or famous that like, oh, I can't bother them. I don't want to, you know, now I think more than ever you can, like we're all kind of connected in that way. So like before they close the DMs, like get in there and shoot your shot. And also just like big up the people that you fuck with on a local level, on a national level, on an international level. Like I think really just like putting that positivity out in the world, it starts a conversation, and you'd be surprised like on some karmic shit what happens as you begin to do that. So anyways, that's my big overarching shit.
Cool.
Absolutely right. Definitely reach out to people via DMs. You know, why not? Like I just hit up you and Nurdi on Instagram. I was like, hey, panel. So,
We're like, sure.
you know, I don't have your phone numbers. So, but a couple I want to mention, United Artists Collaborative is a nonprofit that will, like the American Composers Forum, do fiscal scholarship. They'll also help you write grants. So if you're looking for whatever grants that are out there and you're like intimidated to write one, because it can definitely be, it's like can be like a whole essay sometimes, definitely hit up United Artists Collaborative. Also, I'm currently working on, Kelsey mentioned previously, a virtual venue that's accessible through phone, laptop, or VR headset. And I currently have a grant right now to just pay a bunch of artists to be within the space and show off their artwork. Very similar to Gamut Gallery's virtual reality space created by the same people, Rem5. They're very awesome. They're in St. Louis Park. You can voice chat with people. I'm really trying to create a community kind of aspect within this virtual reality space for artists to just connect with each other, COVID safe, and also perform in a virtual space and show their artwork. And so open to musicians and for visual people. But
and Simone is since this is an MMC panel, like is the Minnesota Music Coalition. I know that there used to be the program where it was almost like a mentors. Like I remember getting tagged in when it's like, oh, we have a new member and they don't know how to go from writing a demo on their, iPhone to getting to a studio. And then I could get tagged in and spend an hour with them to kind of help them along. I always thought that was such a cool program. Is that still going on?
Yes, that's still going on too.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Definitely anybody who is a member of MMC can tag on to they get one free mentorship a year and can also pay a la carte for more. But yeah, that's an amazing program and just like a great way to get connected within the cities. I used to run that program and have now taken a step back as I've been busy with everything else. But it is still continuing. And it's incredible the amount of people that you will get connected with and meet and get advice from. So that's all I have.
I have one more. I always am really quick to say like music ones, but Black Table Arts Co-op is really great for poetry or just writing in general. They're a really great like system and boot camp to really help you further that.
Awesome. Absolutely. I love this tangent off of very heavy question. So I'm happy to see connections and community come from that. Next question is, the past year brings up a key term, perseverance. What does this word mean to you personally, and how do we engage across our community?
Perseverance. It is a tough. It's such a big word. I think that I've really seen it embodied out on the front lines. Like, so for those of you who don't know, alongside of doing music, I founded Justice Frontline Aid. It's an organization that goes out and provides marshaling services, first aid services, medic services, supplies to protests, protest actions, and movement actions throughout this entire stuff. We've been going on for about a year now, and it is really like hip deep in everything that's been going on since the murder of George Floyd. And one of the things that I have realized and come to wrestle with is the fact that I've only been here for a year and I'm tired. And there have been people who've been marching and shouting and doing all the stuff I said about the hip hop community. I've been talking about this for a while, but like, not even just them, but just these members of this community, these families, Jamar Clark's family. There's so many other people, Philando Castile's family. There's so many other people that have been talking and shouting and crying for so long, and they're still doing it. It's just sexier now. So then a lot of other people are jumping on. And so the idea of perseverance throughout even some of the awkward times pushing through some of the I don't really know how to navigate this, and not retreating into old habits, but like to really kind of to push through to the next step. When we talk about in music, and the music community, I think something was mentioned earlier about essentially talking about like we don't want it to look like we have to have a certain amount of XYZ in order to function. And I would push back on that a little bit by saying that I would rather have venues have that worry and feel that pressure than not. I would rather have people booking that and thinking like, oh snap, we don't have a woman on the bill. We need to. And really having to worry about if that's going to affect their bottom line or not, because that's how we get to the next level. There was a point where like maybe we don't put seatbelts in cars, and then everyone was like, well, now we have to put seatbelts in cars, and now that's not even a question. We had to push past that initial like, I don't want to feel like I'm stepping on people's toes and da, 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 until it becomes just a normal practice. And so as we push through, whether it's booking, whether it's talking about like, oh, how are we going to spend our money and stuff like that. And that really falls down onto us as consumers and producers and creators. It's that like, if we see something and we like, yo, I know that's not up to the standards that I said I want to set for ourselves. Like, and I'm not just talking about venues and bookers, I'm talking about like me buying a ticket. And I look at it and it's 7 dudes, maybe 7 dudes I've seen a bunch of times. And I say to myself, I could go to this show, or I can be like not spending my money on this because it's not following up the standards that I said I was going to set. It's really hard to do. That is the perseverance part of it. Like that is really hard to do when you just want to go out and have a dope time. And it's like, oh, well, what does it matter? It's like, well, because those things don't affect bottom line, because they don't affect the wallet, it's really hard to change in a capitalist society that we have. So as we continue and we think about all these things we want to do, we want to make sure that we're pushing through that initial awkwardness, pushing through that a little like, oh man, I didn't go see that one show and I really wanted to. And majority of my friends went because they're not caring. And I don't think that's that big of a deal. And I didn't go with them. And making it and persevering through that in order to get to the spot where everyone is making those decisions, even unconsciously, they're just making those decisions. So yeah, that's where persevering is really looking at me. Like when it's not sexy, when it's not cool, are you living through the things that you said you were going to live through?
I love that. I got to say that if I can reflect on that for a brief moment, I'm just going to grab the mic. One thing that I've learned to really hate about electronic music, my medium, is how polarizing there's this idea of superhero, like the idol. Everyone, when we grew up, we had our musical heroes, the people that were just like, they walked on water in our world, whether it was whoever it was, we all had these people. And the honest to God reality is that's just another motherfucker. Sorry to say that, but that's just another human being that takes a shit and does the same stuff that we do. Pardon my terrible language. But I actually got really kind of alienated from techno for a while because a lot of my heroes, the culture of techno is hedonistic and ethically opposed to a lot of the things that I'm really, really all about. And I see my heroes doing these things, or even going down with the Me Too movement, realizing, the truth comes out about these heroes that you think are so great. And I think it's time that, like, maybe a beautiful byproduct of Me Too and of George Floyd, rest in peace, and all this like awareness that we're forced to face when we come back into reality, is that we are gonna be operating on a higher consciousness level and realizing, going and seeing that same DJ or same rapper every single time they come to town because they are your god is a phony existence. You know who the best performers are? The people you haven't seen yet. And like, now is the time. I'll never forget, just to tie it in, man, I saw Simone rip it at the gallery and I was like, kill your idols, dude. This is just another kid coming along, and she's better than anyone else I see out here who's famous and stuff. And I think there's this illusion in music that, oh, yeah, Jimi Hendrix was a great guitar player. Okay, great. But like, the even more important is all the other guitar players that are also awesome that just play in their garage because everybody's spending money on the Jimi Hendrix concert. And maybe it's a bad example, but you know what I mean by this is like, let's emerge out of this being more woke and saying, hey, the really good art is in discovering the new. It's tired going out and seeing the same rapper or same DJ every time because it's expensive. They charge a lot. It becomes a scene. And then all these like these undesirable aspects of this baggage of music comes with when the ego is so involved. So much ego, and when you can really knock that ego down, which maybe is a positive byproduct of all these cultural awakenings we've been going through, that you're going to see a lineup and you're going to be like, oh shit, did you see that lineup? I've never heard of anyone on there. That's the one we're going to go to. That's the woke like music scene maybe. And then the promoters are like, I got to find people that no one has ever heard of. That's the cool shit. Let's manifest that. Okay.
I do want to say that, like, and I don't want to make people think that I'm saying like don't go see people you like and don't support artists that you enjoy, because that's not what I'm trying to say ultimately. But what I think like the big bit is to say, is the entire lineup to my satisfaction? And then you can talk to your artists. You talk to the people that you are like Laserbeak was saying, like the DMs and stuff like that. Like, see if these people are the people you should support, and then you can support them. Like, check on that stuff. What are they saying? What are they tweeting about? What are they talking about? Are these the people you should be spending your time and your money on? Like, it's always like, art is worth something. It's worth money and it's worth your time, but is that art worth your time? Is that person worth your time? Is this venue worth your money and your dollars? Are they valuing the stuff that you value? Not every lineup's going to be for you, but you ask yourself, when you see something you like, what is surrounded by it? And yeah, when we talk about the, like, not to talk too much about that, the Me Too stuff that's been happening, but real talk, we had been seeing, I've been in the hip hop, I've been in the music industry here for like 3 years. So a lot of this stuff I was just finding out, and people were just like saying, oh yeah, that's just kind of like how they are. That's how they were. And then it's just like, yo, y'all were just cool with that. That was just something that y'all just were cool with as a byproduct of what we wanted to be around this talent.
Yep, people
so
were
we
cool
had
with
to put up with, we had to put up with X, Y, and Z because we wanted to be around the talent. So then we have to say to ourselves, yo, let's flip that. Like, yo, I don't want any of this stuff around. And if none of that stuff is around, then we can support the talent. Like, I don't want to see, if there's going to be a venue and it's going to have a whole lineup of people that you really wouldn't support otherwise, don't go there. Like, just don't go there. Don't see that show. Do something different.
I think what Nerdy just described is the absolute definition of perseverance in a scene. We shouldn't have to survive off of the people that are just surrounding us and they do bad things, but they're just so good as artists. We as a community need to flush that out and prove that we can still stand and persevere through all of that without them being the backs that are there to show.
Cosign.
Real talk.
I'll just one other thing that has nothing to do with equality or anything, but just talks about perseverance, just to mention on the note of your question, because when you asked this, I thought to myself something I wanted to share. And I know that I keep using Aaron here as an example just because I know him outside of this hangout, is I know you can co-sign on this, Aaron, is that to be a musician requires perseverance on any level, whether you're a rapper, a guitar player, whatever, because it is pretty thankless in the first like 10 years usually. I had to carry speakers and injure myself and wrap cables at 6 a.m. for years and years and years and years, 10 plus. 15 almost, before it was like, okay, now I'm really giving myself a paycheck. And so man, perseverance goes hand in hand with being a musician. Because there's maybe these occasional people that come along and pick up the guitar and then they get the gig and now they're famous. But I've never met one of those people. And with the school I'm from is you gotta do it for the love. And it's going to boil down to, do you love this or not? Great person once said, art should only be made by people who have to make it. If you're making it for any other reason other than the fact that you just have to get it out of you, then that perseverance thing is going to bite you, because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And the person that's got that just has to hit the MPC pads as soon as the kids go to bed, or has to play the guitar as soon as they're alone, or piano or whatever. That's if you feel like you're one of those people and you're watching this, I mean, you have to make art and you should get up there, because the opportunities are going to be there. It just takes a hell of a lot of perseverance. And maybe it'll be a little bit less nowadays, hopefully, now that there's maybe a little more wokeness in the behind the scenes, but it's not going to be a hell of a lot more. And you're going to require some perseverance if you're going to stay touching the music and your art your whole life.
That's a great point. That was, to kind of just go back to, like, as an artist, what the pandemic and all this perseverance has looked like is it was kind of nice. At first people were asking me that weren't in music or the arts, like, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to pull it off? And the cool thing was, like, that's what I've been doing my whole life. Like, I got to deliver pizzas for 10 years so I can go lose money out on the road and, like, come back and pick up shifts, or, you know what I mean? Like, oh, now all of a sudden, there's iTunes and, there's CDs. We're making some money off CDs. Oh, no one buys CDs anymore. Oh, but there's iTunes. Oh, well, we're putting a pivot. We're going to get some iTunes money. Oh, no one buys iTunes albums. Oh, but there's, like, little festivals popping up. We'll get on the road and hit the festival. Oh, the festival money dried up and the big guys took over. Oh, shit. Well, now we got to, like, make digital content. And, you just constantly, everyone is searching for the next little bag of money that's hidden, like, way over the rainbow. And it's just, especially as an independent artist, or anyone in the independent arts, which we all are here, like, you get used to the hustle. And if you're, like JP was saying, if you're really about it, it's not the money, because there's never been money, enough money at least, to make it like, oh, I got to do this because I'm going to be fucking rich. Coming out of Minneapolis, it's just not, it's not it. So we really got to just continue to, like, build people up and say, like, it's okay. Every class I've ever talked to, it's like, hey, it's okay to have a job, like a job. You can still make music, but it doesn't define you. You're not a failure. You have to go, like, work at Dairy Queen during the day to pursue your passions at night. There's no difference in that than there is for someone who's, like, a professional or a whatever, does this for a living. I think we get so caught up in, like, the status stuff, especially in rap. I mean, look, rap has come a long way. Like, when I was in high school, it was still all just, like, bling bling. Everyone's renting their cars and renting the mansions for the video shoots and all that. But, like, so that has come a ways. But still, the status of, like, you're not real unless you do this for a living. That's just so bogus, because it's really hard to do this for a living. Like, and even the people that are doing it for a living, like, I consider I don't deliver pizzas anymore, at least for the time being. And still, the amount of time that I actually spend making music is probably 10%. And the other 90% is, like, fucking emails and Zooms and conference calls and the boring, like, like you were talking about, Nerdy, like, the non-sexy stuff. Like, this is not sexy. And so, it's just not. Knowing that it's not. It's really not. And so, getting into it for the right reasons, knowing it's okay if you realize you're not in it or necessarily, like, you're not the most passionate about this. That's okay too. Like, you can do it. It can be a hobby. It can be a thing you do for an hour every 6 months. It can be the thing that you live and breathe. Yeah. It's going to be whatever is right for you. So just kind of taking the idea of what it is out of your head and just finding what's the best for you, I think, is so important, and easier said than done, but worth thinking about.
Yeah, that capitalism, though, man, that shit is good for some things, but it's bad. It can be real bad for the arts. It can be a real muse killer. You know what I'm saying?
And just to Sorry, oh man, I could talk for a
No,
long
go,
time.
baby.
I'm sorry. I'll just, one more thing, like this, the beautiful thing about the Twin Cities, I've had, the great honor to travel the world and play music in my prior life. And there was never a scene like I saw here. Mainly because we had actually, beyond building up an incredible arts community of people that were creating the art, we built up an incredible community that supported the art. And that is not the case in a lot of cities, especially big cities, where like you can have, before the pandemic, you could have like 6 local shows at 6 different venues on like a Wednesday night, and 4 out of 6 of them might sell out, because we actually have people that are spending their money on the local artists and not just the Garth Brooks concert that hits the XL Energy Center or whatever. So the negative side of that is it's because the cost of living is lower here, it gets really easy to like bump up to that next level where you're like, well, I DJ'd 3 nights this month and I was able to cover my rent and my bills. And then all of a sudden you quit your job at Dairy Queen, and now all you're doing is trying to find the next DJ gig so that you can pay your bills and your rent. And then it just becomes this kind of like crutch where it just then becomes another job, and you're just trying to like get your little wad so you can stay. I don't know. I'm rambling now, but I do think it's tough here because it has been so easier than other places to make a living off music, that it kind of handcuffs us in a way from dreaming bigger, because you can kind of make your living doing it. Didn't say that as succinctly as I wanted to, but
the nuance and the story behind it add a lot more impact than just wrapping it all up in a nice bow of like, yeah, persevering's not about whatever, making it sexy. Like, that entire story like puts things into perspective. Like, please ramble. Feel free to ramble. Like, this is such like, I'm getting emotional. I'm getting chills as I'm listening to you all. So I'm just so grateful to hear all of your experiences and hear how you've just been living with the past year, truly, and seeing how things have changed. I kind of want to touch on something that you mentioned, like, it's not sexy. It's okay if you have another job. Going through all this, I think another big piece of persevering and just in conjunction, creating community within, thinking about how to persevere. Like, it's not glamorous. And I think in a lot of music communities I've been a part of, like, there's I think a lot of insecurity and a lot of like, oh, I need to pretend like I don't have a day job, or like, I'm totally making it. Absolutely, 100%. I just do music and that's it. Like, when I was first performing, I felt so insecure about like getting off stage as quickly as I possibly could. Like, oh, I don't want anybody to know who I actually am. I'm actually so like, I'm not as cool as that person that was just on stage. Or I don't want anybody at my day job to like know who I am or get involved with that, because that'll like, I have 2 different like split personalities for that. And that was very toxic to my mental health. And I don't recommend that, but I think that's a very real reality for many musicians. And that happens a lot, I think, within our communities. And we don't tell each other about that. And so another piece of persevering is, I think we all need each other. And I think we all need to be real with each other. Because this past year, I was completely carried by my community and my friends and my collaborators that were like, hey, what's going on? You know, we're still here. We're still in it. And I was like, oh, we are? Okay, well, grab my hand because I'm going to need help getting up. Like, I yeah, it just people being real with me of like, it's fine for where you're at. It's fine. You're not as cool as like you think you are on stage, or like, yeah, you are as cool. Like, we know who you are. So I think being real with each other, being very aware of what's actually going on is so crucial, so that there's an actual foundation instead of a empty shell of the idea that you have of the community, like the Me Too movement, the murder of George Floyd, just all of it being in plain sight. Like, yep, we have a solid foundation of what's actually going on. And from that, we can build, not on top of an empty, fake perception of what we have.
I was I I often tell my friends, like, I feel like Spider-Man. A lot of times people see Nerd D and they're like, oh, it's cool, it's a billboard, oh, it's great. And like I come home from work because I was just like, oh, okay, like I'm still working a job, or I'm still like I'm still running to get paid rent, and I have a boss who yells at me, like all that stuff like is real. That's the iceberg foundation of what the 15 minutes you see is a lot of work. And even when I left like the corporate world and got to be just a musician full time, it was based off of living with 4 roommates, like having very little other things, living below my means, so I could maintain that. And sometimes it is just being a little hungry. That's what perseverance looks like. It's just being hungry sometimes, if that's what you want. And I tell people all the time, I was in rock and roll for 8 years before I did hip hop. So when you think that I've been like, oh, Nerdy just showed up and he just and all of a sudden he's here everywhere. It's like, like I failed for 8 years at something else. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this other thing. That's also cool, is to be like, maybe not this one avenue. Maybe I expand and see what other things I enjoy doing. And you might find the thing that catches like brush fire. But what to speak to what you were saying about disillusionment, even what JP was saying about your idols and stuff like that, no matter where you are as a musician, if you're listening to this or watching this later, I'll never forget I was at Southset 2018, and when it's hot and everyone's sweating and everyone's running around and you have these huge massive stages and it's like people are dropping, it's so hot, and you go into the artist area, right, and everybody is sweating. There is they're dust people. Everybody that you will see on no matter what big of a stage it was at one point was just hot and sweaty and irritated and so like, just know that if they have the ability to do that, you also have the ability to do that. You just have to find your lane. But then that's the main thing, is to find your lane and then just go for it.
I think exactly right. And as artists, I think we've mastered the art of the humble brag, right? Like if you're going to promote yourself as an artist, you're always, I mean, social media for anyone, artist or not, has always been this, like, you're going to see the highlights, like you're going to see the good stuff. I'm not going to show you the bad stuff. But then we get into this false perception of like, well, Nerdy's always fucking awesome. Or, Kelsey, everything, Kelsey's life is so great. My life isn't great. And it just like, we knock ourselves down in that. And I'm guilty of it 100%, and I have to check myself sometimes, like, wait, what is my intention in posting this? Am I just trying to like prove that I'm as good as these other people I'm seeing, that their lives seem better than mine? I think it's really important to try and pull yourself out of it every once in a while, because it's just not like any artist I've ever talked about at any level, like Nerdy said, right? Like I've known people that are really famous. I've known people that are less known than me. They're always looking to somebody else. So like even fucking Beyonce is probably like comparing herself to somebody else at any given moment. And like, if we can stop that for a second and just focus on ourselves a little bit more, I really think it makes everybody better. And so I'm always drawn to like vulnerable, open, honest people, and especially artists, like, show me a little bit of the bad stuff too, or like, you know, because I just can't believe that for anyone it's always sweet. And so just always trying to encourage people too, like, you have a shitty day, it's not like you need to go on Twitter and be like, well, I'm having a really bad day, but also you can talk about your struggles. And I really have been uplifted by when I have been open or honest, or like, this has been hard, or even the basics of like, oh, I had writer's block or whatever. Like, people can finally like raise a hand and be like, I also have that. Oh, is cool to talk about that? Like, yeah, same thing with like mental health, which we're all experiencing, right? Like, oh wait, I also have anxiety. I thought it was just me. Oh, now we can talk about it. So just like making ourselves a little more vulnerable and human goes a long ways in any walk of life.
Hell yeah. Co-sign on that big time. That's huge.
I feel like during the pandemic, especially, I really struggled with imposter syndrome. Like, do I really know what I'm doing? Am I actually good at what I'm doing? I don't think so. I see other artists are thriving, or other artist managers or talent managers are doing so great. And I'm like, how are you doing great? The world's shut down. Like, and that was a really huge hurdle I needed to jump over, because that is a lot of smoke and mirrors that people put on social, or a lot of things that people choose not to say or omit from conversations. And it's time to really start validating yourself and being uplifted by your community that will also validate that, hey, you're doing good work, and I come to you because you are doing good work.
100% agree with that. It's so refreshing to be able to discuss all of these with you. Sorry, James, JP, did you raise your hand real quick? Oh, okay. Well, let us move on to the next question. These are all kind of tied in with each other. We've mentioned a lot of things that tie into rebuilding our communities, but this one is specifically about the music industry as a whole and what we think it'll look like in the future. What, on the topic of that, do you want to see, and what do you think you will see?
Okay, I'm gonna jump in it because I've been thinking about this for a while. You know, I feel like any artist that have, like the artists in this panel, the bookers on this panel, the managers in this panel have been thinking about what's going to happen next. Everybody who's connected to music has been like thinking about, all right, what do we do once we hear that gunshot and it's back to racing, you know? As opposed to what I would like to see. Or I know I'll start with the negative. So I can end on the positive. What I think I will see, people think I'm an optimist because I smile a lot. I'm really not. What I think I will see is there's going to be a lot of places, venues, talent, created things that are going to try and rush to get the big names back so that they can recoup their losses financially from the last year and a half. I think that's what we will see. Because it's proven to work, you know. No shade on the dude, or whatever. But like, if First Staff book Taylor Swift over a local artist, they will. I love First Staff, but they will do that. You know what I mean? If the XL Center is never going to go to an open mic night and pick a super talented person who lives in that city over Rascal Flatts, they will not do that. So there is something to be said about that and what we will see like happening. That being said, I would like to see, and what I think the communities are looking for and asking for, is self-growth. I would like to think that a lot of the venues in this, at least in Minnesota, as far as we can talk about, have realized that if something like this were to happen again, or at the very least, like, who really keeps their lights on are the people that live in their community. Like, it's them who are like donating to the Savior Sages. It's the people that live down the block for you that are coming in and working for nothing and helping to make sure things continue. It's these people who are keeping the lights on. So I would like to think that as a music community, we start promoting from within as opposed to reaching out from people from outside and doing that. I'd like to see everybody's music scene all across the country and the world, I guess. But I'd like to see everybody's music scene build up their people. You know, I'd like to see us being like, yo, like we all be like, yeah, hey, Target Center, book Gully Boys. Like we'll go see them. Like we, the people who live here, will pay to see them in this venue. Let's give them the expanse they deserve. I'd like to see like emails from artists that you haven't heard from not get ignored because they don't have 1,000 followers on Instagram, and just be like, you know what, as a venue, I will take it upon myself to fill the room and use my goodwill with the people around me to be like, come see this show, as opposed to be like, hey, young artist that only has like 700 followers and they're mostly from your high school, like, because you don't have 2,000 followers or more, I'm not going to even acknowledge your presence. It'd be like, yo, I'm going to book you because of your talent and because I am, you know, Fine Line, or I am, you know, whatever the thing may be. I will use the fact that I have 30,000 followers to tell people, come see this person. Let me invest into you. And so that the community will rise, because then more people will go. So that's what I would like to see. And I'm hoping that that's the case.
To piggyback off of that, the one thing I really want to see out of this, and I feel like it will be a hurdle, but it will be a hurdle for the better, is more music venues in this city. There are not enough smaller venues that are ready to build and have that clout. So I hope with the VR venues and with Aunties coming along, like, I really want to see more spaces like that that will take a chance, because everybody starts at the entry, and the entry is known for taking chances on people, and that's amazing. But we need more spaces like the entry for the long term. I think the one thing this pandemic will do is hopefully shift property value a little bit and make it possible for new people to purchase those venues and make spaces. That's my hope.
I love that. Yeah, I totally agree. I just want to continue to see, like, there's certain things that I had been seeing. Now that I can say I'm an old head or whatever, like, you know, the music community before the pandemic looked a lot different than it did in 2001, and specifically the hip hop community, or the hip hop community that was getting attention. It was very, like, you know, Doomtree had a big rise in popularity, and it's in no small part because a lot of, you know, we were just safer, right? There's like more white artists on there. It was a little bit more like indie, and we'd play with rock bands, and it was an easy thing to write about. And so the rap scene looked very white from the artists on stages back then. And it was amazing to watch that. You know, we tried to do our part to help that too. Like, my thought has always been, like, every little bit, every step you go up, you got to kick in the door a little bit more, kick it open for the next people to come through. I want to get back to that. Like, I want to see more of that. I want to see not the old guard, but people of my generation now starting to just step back a little bit and use some of the spotlight to highlight younger artists across the board. Like, younger, let's let new voices in across the board and share the stage a little bit with that, so that there can be this bridge, as opposed to just the old people fighting to stay relevant and, you know, halting the progress of the inevitable, which is like, let's re-energize, like, let's give some platforms to new voices. I really want to see that. I want to see us get back to collaborating, not just musically. I always loved how collaborative this city was, mainly because we're not big enough to have a huge infrastructure. So it's like, you had to collaborate. You're like, shit, I don't know anybody else. I gotta call Nerd D to see how he pulled off his live set, or, you know, oh, how'd you do that drum pattern on that one song? And, like, I want to get back to that, just like real deal artist conversations, not just about how you make music, but how you pulled off pivoting with live streams. How do you do your taxes? All that kind of stuff. Like, I really want, you know, we've been all so isolated, and there's been so much anger and pain, and I don't want that to eliminate the things we had been good at and had been developing, like, you know, taking some of the good stuff with us and amplifying that. So I'm looking forward to just being in the same room, like with people like yourselves, and comparing notes and trading tips and making everybody better.
My hope too is as we build towards more spaces and more opportunities, that these spaces will be extremely inclusionary. So we're going to be able to have spaces for BIPOC, for women, for disabled folks, both physically and mentally. These spaces need to be accessible for the long term, because every musician should have an opportunity to present themselves in their very real way. I know personally there's nights where I've wanted to go out, I've wanted to be a part of events, but I have anxiety, and it's like, ooh, crowds, no thank you. But developing VR venues like what Simone and I are doing, and what I've seen popping up, that's something that I could still be a part of on nights where I'm too anxious to leave my bed. I can put my laptop up and still be a part of the community beyond having to go somewhere. So I'm hopeful for the future there.
Yeah, I just want to resonate with everyone here, just so I'm touching on this question that I just want more opportunities. This is basically the same thing everyone else has said, but you know, like spending 40 plus hours a week cultivating the visions of young aspiring producers like at Slam Academy, I want to just be able to say, here are the 7 different venues and promoters that are looking for you. And here's a little list. Call them up, send them your demos, and you're going to start playing gigs. Like, once your music is good enough and you're ready, bam. Like, there shouldn't be this invisible tightrope you have to walk to get to the gig. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I could do anything differently back in my life, in my, like, again, in my 20s and 30s, throwing a lot of parties, it would have just been that. It would have said, hey, we're going to start making anyone just submit your demos. If you have like a pulse and the music is cool, you can come on and play your show. And I guess that's maybe back to the original thing we were talking about, is a silver lining from having all this time to sit and be home alone, thinking about how our world could be better.
Yeah, like real talk. I think both Kelsey and JP were kind of talking about a clear line of advancement for a young talent to get to the next part. Like, there's a part of the music industry that's always going to be a little mystery, because that's what people like want, or for whatever reason. But the reality is, like, if a young artist comes up and is like, how do I go from A to B to C, that it's not this, I'll let you know, because, and to speak on that, and I've even had to check myself on this as a man, I should say. I'm dropping stuff. As a man, I'm able to just call somebody and say, hey, can I take you out to lunch and pick your brain, without any worry that something might happen to me. That's a big like leg up that I have over my female identifying artists peers, is that at any point in time, if I want to have a meeting or whatever, at no point do I have to worry about what I'm dressed like and if I'm gonna get talked to a certain way or treated a certain way. And because how you get from A to B has always been shrouded in mystery, when someone who is predatory or someone who might want to do XYZ says, oh, well, hey, just come over to this party and, do like this, that, and the third, people don't know that that's not how everybody else did it. And so they're just like, okay, I guess I'll do that. And so it's like giving everyone being like, yo, how did you do that? Like, Laserbeak, how did you do that? And then us to be like, this is how I did that. No questions about it, no secrets about it, so that everyone can go like, oh, cool. And if someone says something out of pocket, then we know, like, oh, wait, no, it's not what you're supposed to do, because I've heard from so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so that how I get from A to B is clear. And that transparency, we've been talking about that a lot throughout this whole panel, but the transparency of what we're doing in order to allow people to have space to grow is so important to make an inclusive artist community. If everybody knows the score, then everybody can play the game.
That's so huge, so crucial, what you just said. Yes. I feel like just personal experience, in being like, I want to be in the pop realm. I wonder how I do that. There was no real like mentorship or understanding of like, oh, I know I can go here to get a better understanding of how to get into the pop industry of like whatever these electronic pop artists that I'm hearing on the radio. Like everything from people being like, oh, join your church choir, apply for American Idol, try, go to this classical music college. Just like all of these things, it was like, no, that's not exactly what I want to do. And I don't see the ending up where I want to be. Leading to a lot of, questionable individuals who, didn't have the right route, and trial and error getting through all those barriers until getting to the right people, taking classes at Slam, collaborating with my producer friends who already had a better understanding of what I wanted to do. And so if there were more resources within the community, that would be something I would love to see and provide to the next generation of people, the current generation of people who want to do this, who want to do whatever. I just want to see like, oh, you want to do this? Great. There is this resource and they're going to tell you exactly how to do it. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no alternative agendas. It's just, this is what they offer. It's like perfect and safe. So yeah, definitely that, just piggybacking off of that, that's definitely something I'd love to see. And also definitely co-signing everything else that was said in this group. Let's move along here to the last and kind of closing comments, as we have about 5 minutes left here in our conversation. Last question being, people often use the words industry and community interchangeably. Is leaning into the idea of building community the way forward for the music industry here? Is leaning into that idea of building community the way forward in our industry, and what does that look like? And then as we continue here, just if you have any closing comments as well.
To me, industry is very much the machine that moves things forward. Community are the people around you that build you up and sustain you. So, of course, in my soul, I want to say, yes, I would love to have community be the driving force in Minneapolis, because I want people around me, not machines that are just trying to either take my money or promoters that just don't put on shows the way they're supposed to. I want to be able to turn to the person next to me and know, like, yes, this person's got me. And if I have questions or if I want to make the next step forward, they're going to be there to support me for the long term.
Yeah, I agree. I think it takes both, but with, especially here, with always a very keen eye on community. Like, without that, there is no industry. So we got to have that as a foundation. But then we also have to find ways to like create these jobs and roles, knowing that we don't have like a major record label here. We don't have major A&R people here. We barely have, like managers, publicists. There's more and more booking agents now, but like that's still a new thing. Like, we just haven't had industry to the point. And the closest industry has been Chicago, which is like a pretty decent drive away. So I want to see us, as we lean into community, find ways, whether that's through grants or new positions or just a new model of thinking, to actually put some of that industry in place so that we don't just have to constantly shop out when someone's taking that next step. Oh, I got to go call someone in New York to get a publicist, or I got to go to LA to actually make it as a producer. And that's going to take a long time, but I think those little baby steps of like, with everything that you get, if you can create a little space or take a little percentage of money to create some of these roles and jobs, then it gets a little bit better all the time. I don't have like the blueprint of how to do that though.
I just want to say that as a music producer, the least inspiring part of making and finishing a piece of music is uploading it to Spotify. That's like industry. The most inspiring part about finishing a track is watching people get down to it, and that's community. And as soon as, like, that iTunes music shit you were talking about earlier beak started happening and people are like, oh man, this is so sweet, I can just release my own music, put it on the internet, that's great. Industry was fueled by that, like, cool, we can upload songs, sweet. But I mean, even being charted by your favorite DJs in electronic music doesn't really get you doesn't fuel the muse. Like when you're at home at night wanting to write a track, thinking about how great it's going to feel to hit the upload button to Spotify it's a soul killer, dude. But when you think instead about watching your favorite dancers or your favorite fans jump up and down to the beat, then you're just like, oh, I'm going to kill this tonight, because you're doing it for the people. And that's got to be the fuel behind all of it, I think. And so industry versus community, yeah, they feed each other, but they also, industry in particular, back to that capitalism can be a real muse killer, and I think especially in the past year and a half, it's been, you got to really kind of fake it and the inspiration sometimes, because you're like, man, I'm going to finish this song and upload it to the internet and make some posts on my socials. It's like it's not the same. And so I think doing it for the community, a really wise philosopher one time said, if you're in a conflict in your mind, the way to solve it is to remove yourself from the equation. And that is like some deep Zen shit. But if you can really say, okay, but what about me? And what about, turn all that off and just look at the big picture without you in the formula, as easier said than done. But if you can really do that and see really what's better for everyone, that's where the community thing becomes not only like an essential ingredient, but like what it's all about. Coming from the underground, it's like, man, if people didn't want to go to parties at 2 a.m. downtown at a warehouse, I would have stayed home and my life would be totally different. So you got to do what's good for the community, for your people, and then once those 10,000 hours of schlepping are up, there's going to be some payback for you. I think that's the big message that old school heads like Laserbeak and maybe myself as well need to keep continuing to propagate. So the opportunity oftentimes, I think, maybe lies in the community aspect, and maybe we'll all be better at that after this year and a half of sitting at home and thinking about how bad we used to be. I know I've been doing a lot of that myself, so excited to see where we all take this, and just keeping those rosy colored glasses on and hoping that no more people have to die or be objectified or whatever in order for us to finally cross that finish line and enter like a more woke civilization, where we're doing things right, and if you're not, you don't last. And doing it right, maybe the litmus test is it for the community? Is it really better for your community? Because I don't want to move to LA and live on Spotify royalties. That's not really that fun. I'd rather have my 1,000 closest fans and be able to watch them dance when I play my new track. And even if I'm making less money, but I'm buying eggs and milk enough to make more tracks, then it's a win. So yeah, those are my closing thoughts. Appreciate you all very much. JP@slamacademy.com.
I think that the industry and community are a lot like the Incredible Hulk. They are connected. They can't be separated, even if you want to. And if the community gets too hyped, the industry takes over. And so if one person gets a lot, all of a sudden everyone's around that person, suddenly it becomes industry. And all of a sudden they're a different person and they're off doing different things. And now the community is left behind and you don't know what happened to it. And I don't know if there's anything one person can do to stop it. But what we can do, like the Incredible Hulk, is aim it at the things we want it to attack. So if as we as a community, we value inclusiveness, we value language that isn't destructive, we value change, and we funnel all of our will into artists and art that reflects that, the industry will be forced to make that the new standard. When everybody wanted to hear the Beatles, the industry gave them the Beatles because that's what people wanted to hear. That's what they paid money to have. And the industry is, as powerful as it seems, it is a slave to the community. It can only do what people will pay it to do. So like that's the society we live in. So my closing thoughts, my closing, things about this is that if you have $5 and a ticket costs $5, and you can either give $5 to an artist that is not doing the things that they should, or $5 to a young artist that doesn't have the following. If we make a conscious effort as a community to go with the latter, it'll change what the landscape of what successful artists, successful art, successful venues, all of that looks like. If we make it profitable to be good, as weird as that sounds, it'll be a lot easier for us to aim the industry aspect towards goodness. And that's what, as an artist with a soul and a conscience, is your responsibility to do. So that's my closing though.
I just want to say, from watching Thor Ragnarok last night, I really appreciate that Hulk metaphor.
Yes, and I would like to say I just finished the Marvel Cinematic Universe with my kids, and I actually know what you're talking about, and that was really awesome. That was a good connection for me.
Yeah,
so,
there you go. That's what they do. That's the brand, baby.
We're on the level.
You're on it. You're on it.
Every time next time I spend $5, I'm going to think about the Hulk and be like, oh, dang, this is a big decision. It's a big decision.
Yeah, you definitely hit it on the nail. I just have so much, I have so much hope, and I have so much motivation just from the conversations that we've been having today, the conversations that I've been having with other artists and people, leaders within the community, and really feel like we will not be coming back into the industry and our communities in the same way. I think we've all had a lot of time to reflect on our past and see, JP, like you were saying, the negative things that we used to do, myself included. I'm like, whoa, I don't know. I don't even know that person anymore. Like I do, but I'm like, they're in a past life. I'm like, I see that, and I just want to move forward from it. And I think that's something that I hope we all carry into this post-COVID life, and that we come to each other and our passions with love and consideration and all of these different areas we've been talking about. So I just want to thank you all for your time. You are all incredible. If there are any shout outs that you want to do real quick, do them now. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah, I'm shouting out all my boys. I'm just kidding. I'll give a real shout out. just doing stuff. No, really, for real. Again, if you like what I do, or if you don't heard of me or anything like that, Nerdy Rocks on everything, at Nerdy Rocks on all social media, nerdyrocks.com if you want to check me out. Shout out to Fair Play Entertainment, everybody on FPE, so amazing. Shout out to Justice Frontline Aid. If you're into community organizing and community help, that'd be so awesome to see you over there in any sort of time. And ultimately, yeah, everybody in the city who's been working hard to keep us safe and to keep us on the right track. I appreciate all of your hard work and dedication.
Hell yeah, nerdy. Okay, I'll just shout out Gamut Gallery, mpls.com. We have great programming planned all year, lots of equality, chances for breaking down the old powers down at Gamut. We're downtown on 10th in Chicago, and it's amazing. And we have been staying alive through all this. Gamut Gallery, mpls.com, and then slamacademy.com, of course. This is your studio, your dojo. You can come down here and express yourself, and it's a safe, judge-free environment where every human being is beautiful. So please reach out to us if any of that is of interest to you.
I am Laserbeak pretty much everywhere on the internet, and laserbeak at doomtree.net. If I could be of any help with anything moving forward. And I just shout out to all you guys and to anyone that tuned in and is open to having these conversations and continuing them. I think it's so important, and I'm very grateful for being included.
If y'all want to find myself, I work with Simone at Placebo Records. I actually want to hear your music, so please, for the love of God, send me your tunes. I want to hear them. Also, if you're looking for other work, you can find me at Sticker Book Collective as well.
Awesome. And I am Simone, aka Sim1. You can find me at no1, N-O, number 1, but Sim1, SYM, number 1, .com. And you can find me on that on all socials. Go to placeborecords.com and click fantasy if you are trying to get into the virtual reality venue. We want everyone to apply. We want to create a space in which people are hearing their music, talking with each other, giving feedback to each other. BIPOC and LGBTQ are strongly encouraged to apply. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Shout out to everyone here. Thank you so much. I feel, I don't know, I'm all tingly and just have chills and so much for all of you and for what the future holds. So thank you so much to the MMC for making this possible, for making this happen, and enjoy the rest of the summit, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a great rest of your day.